You know that feeling when someone walks into a room and literally everyone just turns to look? They haven't even said a single word yet, but somehow the entire energy of the space just shifts. Well, today, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens. We're looking at the actual mechanics of how power postures command any room, completely transforming not just the way you're perceived by others, but ultimately the way you feel about yourself.
Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited about this one. We are diving deep into the subconscious physical cues of dominance, and we're drawing all of this directly from a really fascinating recent analysis by body language expert Kannan Tandhi. We're going to decode the unspoken signals that dictate social hierarchies and give you a super practical blueprint to elevate your own physical presence.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The language of power, 2. The anatomy of power postures, 3. Subconscious signs of weakness, 4. Real-world power plays, and 5. True inside-out confidence. So let's just dive right in.
Section 1. The language of power. Decoding subconscious cues.
Before we can start commanding rooms, we really need to understand the fundamental rules of the game. And honestly, we need to bust a pretty common myth. We always hear these blanket statements, right? Like, oh, if your arms are folded, it absolutely means you're closed off or you're unwilling to listen. But as Kannan Tandhi points out, one size fits all simply does not apply. If you've got your arms lightly folded or you're just holding a neutral posture, it might just mean you're comfortably observing. It is always context-based. You really can't rely on a single gesture in isolation to tell the whole story.
To actually read a room or even read yourself, you have to establish what's called a baseline. This basically means observing how someone acts naturally when they're perfectly comfortable. Like, what's their normal blink rate? How much do they actually use their hands when they talk? Are they speaking at a high pitch or a low pitch? True power language, and knowing when someone is lacking it or maybe even hiding something, is all about observing deviations from that normal baseline behavior.
All right, moving into Section 2, Anatomy of Power Postures, the physical mechanics. So, the crucial takeaway here is applying these exact physical steps. Think of the way a leading actor, like Salman Khan, enters a scene. Step 1. Your chest and shoulders should be slightly protruded, but, comfortably so. Don't exaggerate it to the point where you look completely stiff. Step 2. Keep your chin slightly up. This subtle little angle sends a powerful, subconscious message to the room that literally says, I can handle you. And step 3, maintain a steady, deliberate gaze. Avoid darting your eyes nervously around the room. You want to look anchored and entirely present.
But here's a question that brings massive anxiety to so many people. When you're just standing there in the middle of a room, where on earth should you keep your hands? I mean, it feels so awkward sometimes, right?
Well, the solution is actually simpler than you might think. First off, absolutely avoid shoving your hands in your pockets. While it might feel comfortable in the moment, it actually signals either fear or arrogance, and neither of those commands respect. Instead, literally just let your arms dangle naturally at your sides. If that feels way too vulnerable for you, clasping your hands lightly in front of you is perfectly acceptable. It shows you're neutral and observant. Keeping your hands visible and relaxed is a very subtle yet highly effective sign of high power.
Let's flip the coin for Section 3, Subconscious Signs of Weakness, the pitfalls to avoid.
When we compare these behaviors side by side, on the high power side, we've got that steady gaze, taking up comfortable space, and keeping an open torso. But on the low power side, shifty eyes immediately signal a lack of active attention. Fidgeting, slouching, or just displaying a lifeless posture tells the room you are barely even there. Honestly, if it looks like a light breeze could knock someone over, they are absolutely not commanding the space.
There's this absolutely fascinating psychological reflex that happens when people feel uncomfortable or intimidated. Their primal instinct is to protect their vital organs, basically everything from the throat down to the torso. You'll actually see people clutching notebooks or their drinks like a literal shield right across their chest. Another major power drain is staring down into a phone when walking into a party, just to mask social awkwardness, or engaging in pacifying gestures like repeatedly touching your own face or neck just to self-soothe. All of this telegraphs massive, massive insecurity.
Moving to Section 4, Real-World Power Plays, Leaders in Action. Now, looking objectively at these world leaders as purely physical case studies, and to be clear, doing this without endorsing any political viewpoints whatsoever, these high-profile meetings are absolute masterclasses in how dominance battles are fought in milliseconds. When Trump meets Putin, it's dominance meeting dominance. Trump famously pulls the handshake toward himself, but Putin immediately counters by tapping Trump's back, which effectively reclaims his physical space and asserts control. Contrast this with Trump meeting Zelensky.
Trump faces forward, appearing completely uninterested, which puts him in a dominant, withholding state. Zelensky is forced onto the receiving end. He has to lean in to be heard, and he exhibits passive aggression, subtly flaring his nostrils because he's frustrated but in a position where he simply has to restrain himself. The analysis also points out some specific extreme cues. Take the dead hand, for example, a limp, totally motionless hand observed in interactions with leaders like Kim Jong-un. That is a physiological sign of being completely frozen in a fight-or-flight state, demonstrating intense underlying nervousness. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum is the one-sided smile. This is a universal microexpression where just one corner of the lip goes up. Spoiler alert, it does not mean happiness. It actually signals contempt, disbelief, or a profound feeling of superiority over the other person.
And finally, Section 5, True Inside-Out Confidence, the psychological root.
Because here's the thing, real power isn't just a mechanical party trick. To truly command a room, we have to look at this game-changing quote from the source. Fake it till you make it makes you very underconfident, you start getting scared. If you try to just mechanically mimic a power pose, like puffing out your chest when you actually feel terrified inside, you literally increase your underlying fear. Your body language is going to look forced, it'll look robotic, and ultimately, people will subconsciously sniff out that it's an act. You absolutely have to work from the inside out.
So, to achieve that true inside-out confidence, the expert assigns this mandatory self-awareness exercise. You literally have to sit down and list out the physical and mental traits you actually like about yourself, and then brutally list the ones you dislike. Why? Because if you walk into a room secretly hating your nose or your height or feeling intellectually inferior, that insecurity acts as a massive mental block. It'll instantly trigger that defensive, low-power body language we talked about earlier. By actively identifying these blocks, you take away their subconscious power over you.
Once your internal state is secure, you can use these incredibly practical tools to network with true power. When you enter a room, look down. If a group's feet are pointed inward toward each other, it's a closed, intimate conversation. Don't interrupt them. If their feet are open and angled outward, that group is receptive. Go ahead and approach them. Want people to just naturally come to you? Stand near the food or drinks. Psychologically, people associate you with the positive feeling of getting food, which instantly boosts your approachability. And when you strike up a conversation, compliment someone's taste, like a cool watch or their shoes, never their physical body, especially the torso, because that immediately triggers their defensive barrier instincts. So, I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. The very next time you step through the doorway of a crowded party or a high-stakes meeting, what story is your body silently broadcasting to the room? Are you hiding behind a notebook, or are your shoulders comfortably open and your chin held high? Start by just observing your own baseline tomorrow. Master your internal insecurities, align your physical mechanics, and just watch how the room responds to your unspoken power. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.